Buy, deliver with the two-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to episode 74 of Chasing the Racing, and welcome back for a third time, a record third time, Mr. Christian Iddon. How are we doing?
The ever ruthless Christian Iddon.
Well, you only invite me back for a third time because I moaned because 2 wasn't enough on it last time.
Yeah, that's it. And for people that are listening in for maybe the first time or missed the other two, the first one was, I believe, episode 39. And that was called Frozen Testicles. And then the second time it was 61 and Tight Sausage. Now both of them are very sort of similar sort of references. What's going on with the I don't know.
I think it's because Dom chooses the names. That's what it is. I think that's the common denominator.
Believe it or not, it's not me. It's him that thinks about your tight sausage regularly. So it's I don't want to be dragged down under that bus. There we go.
Anyway, it doesn't feel like 2 minutes ago since you were last here, and it was just before the season started. I think we'd had a bit of pre-season testing, and this season has literally flown over, and we're both sat with a couple of days before the final round, and we're both in with a shout of bringing our respective titles back to the northeast. So how are you feeling? You know, obviously a couple of days into Brands Hatch.
This is just going to be a therapy session, this, isn't it? Here we go.
Well,
you two talk through your feelings, girls. You know what I mean?
We could be the only hope of the North East, couldn't we? I mean, up here, we're
Well,
poor, we've all got COVID. Do you know what I mean? It's bad up here. We could have 2 British titles by the end of the weekend.
It is mad when you think I think there's only me, you and Barry from sort of Newcastle that are at BSB. So the fact that you were doing the region proud anyway, and we're classing you as an adopted Geordie as well. So
pretty much a co-host after the third time visiting us. So
yeah.
you're just something for the job. Chris is looking for a good replacement anyway. So it's you better book your ideas up. And may I just say, I'm very impressed with the pair of you. Even he's done it. He's spinning the Monster Energy cans around, and something about a gross net profit. You know, do you want to talk through that?
Well, we're just waiting for the sheets to roll in. We're just waiting for the sheets.
Still waiting.
For the sheets. So here we are. What night is it? Tuesday night. About to go down to Brands. Let's talk through it. The pressure's building. The pressure's building. I'm going to throw you both under the bus here. You like you say, you just kind of washed it off there.
Me and Chrissy are both on a similar sort of schedule of what we're aiming for. Chrissy's on the good side of it, as in he's 10 points to the good, and I'm on the bad side of it. I'm 16 points to the bad, really. So yeah, there's a lot. It's going to be an interesting weekend for both of us.
But in the same breath, though, you've got 3 more races. He's got 1 more.
Yeah, which again is a nice advantage for Chrissy in his one, because he's only got 10 points to lose, essentially.
It's good from your point of view, the fact you're chasing. Obviously, if it was a 16-point gap and you only had 1 race to make it up, it's kind of unlikely where, you know, it's... I mean, looking back in the final round of the BSB, it always seems to throw up surprises. You know, the year when Shaky and Haslam were going at it, and then they both crashed, I think, in the first race of the weekend, and you never know what's going to happen.
Even the year when Lowe's crashed out, when the year that he won it, he crashed Shaky in the first race, didn't he?
So,
yeah, and the year that Keogh went and spanned himself, was he racing against Josh that year? There was one or was it Shaky that year? And Keogh broke his collarbone and then tried to ride or couldn't on the race day. Yeah. So it always throws up some interesting stuff, doesn't it? You know, and especially we were just talking about before, but like the last race of the season, everyone wants to prove a point. It's a bit weird this year because obviously it's been so condensed, the championship. That it's almost like we haven't had a first round and a last round anyway. It seems so short. It almost feels like the start of the season anyway to me.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know, like how you feel about it, but for me, like this 1 week on, 1 week off thing, like by the time you've unpacked the caravan, you're basically back in it to go to the next race.
We've literally just unpacked this studio in
I can smell it, I know.
Mad hurry just to get the podcast done, and then it'll be getting loaded back up for ready like tomorrow or the next day. But one thing we spoke about back in really March or whatever was the fact of it's with such a condensed calendar, consistency is going to be the main factor, and all of the top guys in superbikes this year, like yourself, Josh, O'Halloran, Glenn, all been super consistent. You haven't had a DNF all year, have you?
No.
When you think of it, you know,
it's all gone right.
This one's going to be called the flop. We've got it already.
Microphone issues. No, I didn't have a DNF, but I had basically as good as one. Silverstone, I finished 13th in race 2. Because Silverstone, I had horrendous tyre wear issues.
Right.
And the biggest problem with Silverstone is because we didn't realise that we had any tyre wear issues until we got to the race. So we couldn't actually catch the problem because we didn't realise there was a problem.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. There'll be a lot of listeners thinking of that going, what the hell are you on about? So in
I
practice...
honestly don't know that's the problem.
Oh, no, I'm just mean in practice were you just regularly putting new tyres on, or is this just a duff tyre, or...?
Not a duff tyre, because we had it in 3 races. There was a lot of people with tyre issues during the weekend, but not once during practice and qualifying did we have any inclination we're going to have a problem. So I did a run on a tyre that was nearly twice race distance, that looked alright, and the times that I was doing were alright.
Yeah.
And normally the race tyre's better, because what kills tyres quite a lot is heat cycles. Or certainly kills Pirelli's quite a lot. So obviously in practice and qualifying you do a lot of heat cycles on your tyres because you come in, change something, go out, come in. So the tyres get hot and cold and that's really bad for them. So actually you tend to find that in a race they last longer. So the first race, which for us is shortened because we have three races on a weekend, but the Saturday race is always few percent shorter, so it's like 3 or 4 laps shorter. So I had an issue in the first race and lost a few places on the last few laps, knowing that then we went to Sunday's races and they were going to be 5 laps longer, so I was really in trouble. And I was. So I'd hoped it was going to just a bit of a duff tyre in the first one, and that's all it was, because we had no problems on the before.
Yes, I
got into Sunday's race and I think I dropped 7th place in the last 2 laps. So that's really, really nailed me for the championship.
And so that Silverstone was the first round, is that correct?
Second.
No, Donington.
Donington
National was the first one.
That's right, yes.
And going back to right at the beginning of the season, started off pretty good, all through testing and practice, qualifying. You and Josh didn't seem to really have the pace, but as soon as the race came, you both came through together, and obviously great racing.
I suppose they are teammates, and it's a sign of a good team. So.
Well, no, to be fair, I had no pace whatsoever,
yeah,
and I honestly didn't think I was going to have any. I'd qualified 9th or even 11th. I don't know what it was. It was 3rd or 4th row, which, to be honest with you, was about as far as I'd been the whole way through pre-season testing, and the whole way through that weekend I was nowhere. And I was just hoping and praying that once I got into a race, which I tend to find happens with me, that I would find my mojo. And I got a good start, got away, and I was in the top 4 or 5, and I was like, oh, this is all right, this. And I finally, since February, I first got on the bike in December, so since December until when we actually started post-COVID-ish.
Was that Teesside, by the way, for people who haven't listened to this? He took a Ducati, a Paul Bird Ducati around Teesside. But anyway, listen to the previous episode and you'll be able to catch up on that. But that was mind-blowing. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so that was the first time, so I was just hoping and praying that was the case. But I was trying to stop myself from being negative about it, because actually when I first signed for a factory supermoto team, I did an Italian championship race the week before the first round of the World Championship at the same track and didn't score a single point in the regional championship. And I was horrendous. And I went out and won the GP the next weekend. So there's something in my brain that clicks or changes when you have to do something. And obviously I didn't deem that Italian championship as being important enough. But it's not that I didn't try, and it's the same that I don't not try during all testing and practicing and qualifying and whatever.
You just find something on a Sunday.
I just find myself more relaxed in a race.
That's fantastic. Sorry,
so much more relaxed. So once I got in the race, I was like, oh, thank God for that. I'm actually okay. I was thinking I'd lost my speed. I was like, oh my God, this is a...
Well, I remember following testing, and obviously you can't extrapolate too much from, pre-season testing on where everyone's going to finish in the first race. But I remember seeing you down, it was something like 19th or 20th, and thinking I wasn't expecting that. And then...
Neither was I.
Yes. Same in practice.
Or birdie.
And then qualifying, and I was obviously willing you on and hoping that you would find something. But then when I seen the race, and you literally followed Josh through on the first race, didn't you? And you both both ended up right near the front, and then from there it kind of set the bar. And
I just want to know, did you just say to Paul, "Don't worry, Paul,
It's
don't
in hand."
stop crying. I've got this thing called the click, son. So I know I'm doing shite, and I know you're still paying me, but don't worry, the money will come. Don't you worry,
To
Paul."
be fair, I actually messaged him after the pre-season test at Donington, and I did. You know, I was like, I'm really sorry. That was an embarrassing.
honestly,
I was embarrassed by what I'd done in the test because
Really?
I was honestly hanging it out as what I thought was the limit.
Don't worry, P45's in the post, son.
Well, I wasn't far off P45. I was P18, and there's only 20 in it. So I could have been P45 if it was 45 in the bloody race.
And
So-
just out of interest, how was Paul with you then?
He was honestly spot on. Like, the reply that I got was very like supportive, and he was like, "Be fine once we get racing," and that was exactly what I actually felt inside
That's what
me.
you were
Or
telling yourself.
That's what I hoped to inside me. That is what I was telling myself, and I was
Yeah.
like, "We'll be all right." But like I said, once I then got to the race weekend and it still was not really much better, I was then thinking, "Oh, you know, like, this is bad."
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Saturday afternoon, something clicked, and then from then on, I have actually then been able to actually help them to develop the bike how I like
you
to
want
ride it. Because before then, I was so far off not so far off the pace. You're talking half a second, but half a second is enough to not be able to give the feedback that you need to do. So
Yeah.
Is it?
only then could we start working, really.
It was difficult as well because, for example, Josh had back-to-back years on the Ducati, and obviously when he was talking about the chatter issues and stuff, it must have been difficult from your point of view to what was like chatter and what was just you getting used to the Ducati. It must have been difficult to sort of separate them two things out, and obviously Tommy Bridewell's another one, so quick last year, and then has been plagued with problems this year.
That must be a huge advantage, because if they've gone on the old tyre, this whole new tyre thing is pretty new to me. You know, this whole brand new front product. But like Chrissy says, that thinking about it right now, that seems like an advantage, because you don't know any different as far as that Ducati's concerned. Because was it Donington last weekend? The Ducatis were miles behind. You were the only Ducati up at the front giving out the portions, weren't you? Which round was that? As you can tell, I follow this very closely.
But it's an advantage in terms of I don't know what they had,
Yes, yeah.
but it's still not an advantage in terms of the things still knock me teeth out as I'm going
Have you
around.
struggled a lot more with the tyres? Like, I know you were on the BMW last year, but can you still differentiate what like the chatter issue from this year?
No, because I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what it was like on the other bike. But I have seen the data, and there was none. So I've got a really good data technician, and we do a lot of like back to back on what the squiggly
was.
lines look like and what they look like now. But then the same when actually Josh has mentioned a lot having the issue, but I actually said it on an interview the other day on TV. My issue and his
Hold
issue.
on, you're seeing other people.
I
You're
see-
going to other interviews. How dare you? Sorry,
I am sorry. They give me 30%. But what Josh described, what we both describe is, we call it chatter, but what it shows up on his data login is nothing compared to what I have.
Really?
Yeah, completely different.
And is
So-
that just different riding styles or different setups? Or?
I honestly don't know. So we are trying to eliminate it. So Josh has much less of an issue if you look at it on a computer screen. And that's not to say that he doesn't feel it as much as I feel it, but if you actually look at the data, his is negligible. So I do have a really big problem with chatter. And then we didn't have it all weekend at Donington, and it got to the first race, and that's the first dry race, and it suddenly reappeared. So it's an issue, definitely. But it's the same for everyone, isn't it? So everyone's got the same tyres, so you have to overcome the issue.
Yeah, that's it. And from this, I'm trying to think, this second round, was that Snetterdon?
Yeah, I made him. It wasn't Silverstone, was it?
Yeah.
Silverstone was round 3, Snet was round 2.
Snetterdon was obviously, you went on to take your first British Superbike race win, and that must have massively felt like a monkey off your back. And I
I
remember,
bet you got ruined on that evening.
I didn't do a racing the next day, weren't we?
well, you nearly got ruined on the warm down
The
lap.
cool down lap. Well,
What the fuck was that about?
well, Glenn parked his bike in front of me, didn't he? For a start.
Oh, congratulate! You almost took your arm off.
For anyone that didn't see that, yeah, so there's a hairpin for turn 2, and as Christian was celebrating and he kind of was looking behind, Glenn came in as kind of offside and slowed down to shake your hand, but you were looking like over your shoulder, and basically as you turned around, you like lost your footing, and you would have to describe it as your arm basically went between the hugger and the rear wheel, and it is a miracle that nothing seriously happened, to be honest. Because I mean, you could have easily like lost a finger or got your arm trapped properly. And
Yeah, well, I don't actually think they run a hugger. I'm not sure because my arm did go in. So, like you say, I turned around to congratulate, or for Josh to congratulate me because I really wanted him to do that. So he had actually shook my hand once. I wanted to do him to do it again. So I turned around and waited for him a second time. And then when I looked forwards, there was like Glenn. I was like, and so I just ran clean into the back of him. And it is amazing how like he was rolling off a little bit and I was rolling on the closing speed, like how much different it is. So I sort of fell into the back of his bike.
Thinking you egotistic prick, stop trying to shake me hand.
But like everything goes slow motion, doesn't it? And straight away I had visions of, because the week before at Jerez, the two Sky VR46 bikes had done the same, but they'd gone down.
Yeah.
And I honestly just could picture it. And I thought, oh, you dick, you've crashed. You know, like I couldn't believe I'd actually crashed because it properly would have like take the shine clean off a win, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's all that people would remember. So my arm went in between his wheel and the hugger that should be there, or there wasn't one then, and the back of the bike. And I sort of ended up leaning on it. I could feel it getting really warm, but I was trying to like push myself up. So I dug my elbow into his tyre, I guess. He was trying to accelerate away. He thought his bike was breaking down or something, I think.
For the listeners, let's have a guess at mile per hour. Total guess.
Oh, it was only 20 mile an hour tops. It was nothing.
But it's 20 mile an hour of a motorcycle wheel burning through your levers.
Yeah,
so
well, he's trying to
enough.
accelerate. He's got 220 horsepower, and my arm's going, oh, please don't, like that. So I pushed once and couldn't right myself. So I thought, I'm going to have to really dig in. So I like engaged all my core muscles, and I really pushed down. And it just came up, and I was like, oh, mint. I was all right. And it was just one of them, you try and shug it off, don't you? You just try and like, oh, that's
I seen the picture of your arm, though. You got like a proper blister, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a good old burn on it that did blister up. And I broke my finger, and it's been causing me a load of gripe. I didn't break it bad. It was like a hairline.
In that incident?
Yeah, in that incident, I got like a hairline crack through my finger. And it's been narking me ever since.
Oh, cry me a river, princess.
Look at it, it's red still.
Oh, bless you.
I break with that finger as well.
Yeah.
Do you break with them too?
Yeah, them two.
Yeah,
Two.
I break with them two or them three.
Why would you do that?
I think it was from, I don't know. I think it was from the days where you would like brake and then you could feed the throttle back on with that one. So you brake.
Have you ever done
skills? No.
Well,
Tricky.
I think this finger, them two fingers. If you did a grip test, I think them two fingers would be more powerful than them two, or there would be for me anyway. I don't know.
Don't give me new skills to try at the last round.
But
He wants 25% if you win it, though. So,
and then we're kind of going through this season. So that was
that win, the win that I did, I actually won it twice because I stopped reading my lap board because I was all peaking at life, and I thought that the second last lap was the last one. So I came round thinking, right, hit all your markers, you've got a lap to go. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited when I got round the last corner and tipped into the left and nobody dived up the inside of me. And I came up the start-finish straight and I'm like, why has she not got a flag? Like, where is that black and white flag? And I was like, and I seen last lap on the board. I was like, oh, never. But then I hadn't read my board again. And I had like plus 1.5 seconds, but I didn't realise, I just assumed it was still plus 0 because that's all I'd had all race. Mm-hmm. So I had the longest 2 laps of my life, because the lap before was the longest lap of my life because it was what I thought was the last lap.
God,
and then I'd done it again.
That's probably maybe a good thing, though, isn't it? Instead of overthinking it.
No, it wasn't a good thing. It was horrendous.
Obviously, you've been in BSB for years now. You'll have dreamt of that win for a long time. Was it sort of as you expected?
No.
Better or worse?
A broken finger and a burning arm. So yeah, I don't think that was on the list.
Much worse.
Really? Just not the high that you expected.
I am quite I can get quite emotional about things, and I honestly, when you've been building up to something for so long and so many near misses and so much heartache that everyone goes through.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that when I finally was able to win a race in BSB, that it was going to be a big moment, because it's been a long time, that I feel it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And I crossed the line, and did the whole that was mint, and then I got to turn 1, I was like, right, I've got 2 more races tomorrow. And that was it. And I think just as soon as you achieve something, you move on to the next achievement or the next goal. So it was almost like just ticking a box. I was almost underwhelmed by it because it was just like, right.
I think that's the difference between people that go on to win lots, multiple winners, and people that have like one big blowout and then people who have one big blowout, they feel like they've like achieved what they've set out to, and then there's kind of that's it, and they kind of lose that drive. Where people, like Rossi, how on earth can you win that many titles
and still have that hunger,
and then go out testing at Valencia the next Monday and be fully focused on the next year? But so I think that's a good trait. But it's interesting, obviously, because like people like myself that are sort of still dreaming of that day and like working towards that day. I can't understand it, but it's kind of
it's almost like just achieving one step on the one step on the on your way up the mountain to get to the top of the mountain, whichever your end goal is. And I did think that it was going to be more than it was, and honestly it really wasn't. It was just like, right, okay, 2 more tomorrow.
Do you reckon that was a little bit of lack of atmosphere as well?
Probably
less of a crowd, less people.
If there was 50,000 people there and waving,
and I was sort of like upset about, not upset, but it's like I didn't have either. My parents weren't there and stuff like that. They've basically followed me through racing since day dot, so it's kind of like that's unfortunate because of the situation and like.
Were they not there because of the COVID or just for other reasons?
Yeah, it's harder for them to be there. So we struggle with passes. Obviously, BSB aren't allowing many people in, so you've got to have a good reason, this, that, and the other. So, my mum actually came the following day. She managed to get in on the Sunday, and I didn't win anything. So that was a wasted journey. But it was just a shame after all that time and stuff. They followed me through racing for all that time, and it's just like literally. Text message.
It was the same way. I don't know if you've seen Petrucci's interview, but it was the BT captured a mega moment at the weekend because just before he did his proper BT interview, someone passed him a phone and it was his mum on FaceTime, and it's just that
put your clothes on. You're on the telly.
He totally forgot that the cameras were there, and he was just like, it was just him and his mum, and he was like obviously talking Italian, but he was just like thrilled, and he was asking her if she should watch the race, and she was like, "Of course I did, you like stupid," and you can just tell and afterwards he explained that is similar as mum had been with him the whole time, and she always drives still a man, but for this 1 year she hasn't, and he won the race and all that type of stuff. But no, I think that's really interesting.
Well, have you sorry, I'm trying to think of the last two previous episodes with you. Have you ever you must have won Stock 1000 or Stock 600?
I never did Stock that. Well, I did one race Stock 1000. I did Supersport for a few years. I'd won a few rounds of Supersport.
Right. So no, just when you say BSB, see, a lot of people collectively put BSB as a bundle. I know what you're saying. The British Superbike race is a separate race.
I'd done 2 years of Supersport and won a good few. Not loads, but I'd won some races at that. So
was that a bigger moment for you then? Obviously more crowd. No, just
I think my first Supersport win was way bigger. Yeah, way bigger.
The same for you, surely. Hold on.
My first ever race win, which was at a club race, funnily enough, at Snetterton, and that was by far the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And like that, winning this year hasn't come close to that. Even though like there was nobody there, and it sort of was meaningless really to anybody else, but to me it was like
exactly. It's what it means to you, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's.
Oh no, I'm just picking his brains now. So it's a bit like that Triumph Triple Challenge was a support series.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that was the equivalent now to the Ducati Tri-Options, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So when you won that, when did you see yourself getting a proper race win at British level? Was it at Stock 1000?
Stock 1000, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Had to have been, and that was Donington last year on the Kawasaki one. No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yeah.
So that was a bigger moment there. So now you're going to have to win at the BSB level now. God, you've got a busy timetable.
It's all kind of expectations, isn't it? And I suppose going into this year, you'll have kind of known that a race win was coming, but it was just a matter of when type of thing. So I bet it sort of felt as much of a relief as it did, like sort of the...
I think it was more of a relief than anything else. It was more like...
and you proved yourself.
It was almost I was able to breathe out, and like that was... And I was actually happier for... I wasn't really that fussed about me. It was more for like... Not just Birdie as well, but for everyone who's ever had any faith in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To actually, all my sponsors and for Birdie as well, because it was a big thing for him to put me on that bike, and to at round 2 to already have stood on the top step with his bike and stuff, and in a race where I led from the front, and it wasn't like a strange race in any way. I was happy in the way it happened. So I was almost more relieved for him than I was for myself as
Is
well.
it just on that? Is there anyone like in the background that maybe isn't like close family or whatever that is like that you really think of when you talk about that? Who's someone who's like totally believed in you all the way through and like maybe helped you through your darkest sort of times? Is there anyone that sort of ticks that box?
To be fair, for me, it's just all my family have always been right behind me, and it's through. You know what it's like all through a racing career for the pair of you. You go through so much, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And you lose way more than you ever win. And that is how racing...
Yeah.
If you think of every single race, there's 30 riders on the grid, 29 are going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only one person at the end of each race weekend that's going to go home with as a winner, essentially. So there's so many ups and downs, and there's way more downs than ups. So I've had great support from my family anyway. But I also have a lot of very good loyal sponsors that have been with me for a good few years, and they don't actually want for nothing other than to see me do
be a
well.
part of it,
yeah,
yeah.
and I do really appreciate that, and it's nice for that sort of thing to happen.
Tell you
Really.
what, one thing we've kind of skipped over that, just quickly, like your take on the Irwin Brookes incident at the first round. Do you have a particularly strong opinion on that, or?
I don't have a strong opinion on it. I think
Think BSB got the decision correct?
I think it's a difficult decision to make. I think at the time there was a lot of decisions being made at MotoGP and World Superbike, so it almost seemed that race control was being very
Decisive.
yeah, just getting involved in the racing a lot more. But it wasn't just in BSB they were doing it, so it almost as a collective racing
as a
was
sport,
getting
yeah.
as a sport we've seen so much things with like track limits,
Going off, yeah.
which gets frustrating to watch. So
And penalties.
being
long
imposed,
laps.
like Zarco and Espargaro and all those strange things that happened. So it sort of came at the time when there was a real spate of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that decision, to be fair, if it was a one-off and there wasn't all these other things going on, probably wouldn't have made too much interest.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my point of view is that Josh did know he was there, hence why he gave it a big load of gas and lost the rear. And it was only unfortunate that he rolled off at the point where Andrew came through. So he'd unloaded the front of the bike, and Andrew clipped him at the point that the bike was unsettled.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing would have happened. It is a place that you pass. It's a common place for passing, because I know that one of the arguments was not many people pass there, but I actually think it's a very common passing
It's a
place.
racetrack, you can pass anywhere.
Yeah, but it's. I didn't see too much issue with it, to be fair. It was just unfortunate one rider went down and one didn't,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, totally fair enough.
And I'm just trying to think of the sort of big talking points through the year. So from after Snetterton, you've kind of always been there and thereabouts all year, really. When I had a look at the points the other day, and there's not many superbike riders that have finished every race. I think there's yourself. The only race Josh didn't finish was that one that he got knocked off.
Jason's finished in all of them, I
I
think.
think, yeah, Jason's been pretty consistent. And after that, there's people who have the odd DNF.
Yeah.
But when you look, it's the top sort of 4 or 5 riders have been so consistent this year.
Do you know the points off the top of your head? Like where's who's
Josh
is
then
leading?
I'm 16 down. Glenn's 18. Jason's either 19 or 20, I'm not sure.
And
And then
Glenn's had
Taz is 35 or 40, I'm not sure. 40-ish.
So with 3 races, there's plenty to play for.
Oh,
isn't
plenty to play for. Plenty to play for. And I think like you said before about the consistency thing, I actually think because it's been a condensed year, there's not been the same. We weren't sure how it was going to be, did we? We weren't sure it was going to be like flat out mental and everyone going nuts, or people actually trying to play the long game in a short championship. But it has been
both.
No, it's been
brilliant.
people have been way more. People have been calmer, I think. Like qualifying hasn't been as clean nuts. You haven't had the same people who just go absolutely bonkers, and qualifying's been a bit more normalised. You see the grid tends to be where the finishing places are, whereas previously you get these people who can do one lap wonders, and you didn't really get any strange results at round 1. So I don't think you're going to get too many strange results at the last round. So I actually think that people they've calmed it down a little bit because they know that they have to score consistently.
Looking back on your superbike career, this year's been so much more consistent than what you've ever been in the past. has there been obviously I know you've changed teams, but has there been any other changes? Like, sort of, have you approached the race any differently? Have you maybe like got a coach or a psychologist that's helping you or something? Or
He moved a blade and he had to harden up a little. So you can.
you've got Nicola waiting with a slipper.
I am a bit of a soft shite. Hang on, better man up a little, yeah. These northeast lads.
I have to sleep in the shed if I don't get at least 40 points a weekend.
Who is it, Nicola or Hugh, who enforces that?
We all know the answer to that, Chrissy. We all know the answer to that.
Nicola enforced it and Hugh's backup. Nothing changed really. Just I've got a crew chief, an Italian fella, and some things we disagree on quite a lot. But before every race, he always says, like, race by race, lap by lap, situation by situation. And to be fair, he says it before every race, and I actually quite like it. And I've sort of taken, and I think that little saying has actually calmed me down coming into this race weekend, because instead of me thinking 1,000,001 things before it, because like by now my head would be a jumble, it's more just like, well, don't worry, when we get to the race we'll think about that race, and
so would you,
when we get into that lap we'll think about that lap.
You would kind of give a massive amount of credit to your crew chief for that sort of change then?
It's funny how just one little saying, and it just puts it in your head before the start of a race, and I quite like that.
Well, when Neil Hodgson was on the podcast, he was talking about John Davies, and he'd said right at the beginning of his career, John Davies had said to him, was it smooth and fast or something, or
something like that?
Or something like smooth and fast, and he said even when he was in World Championships type of thing, he used to just, like, on the grid or whatever, just think smooth and fast. It was something along those lines, and I guess that's similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
then I get loads of things on my pit board. So Sam Neat, who's on my pit board, he's got all these things made up. So we've got
they're like thumb emojis.
All different. No, it's just all different modes. But it's
aubergines.
Yeah, like what mode is that, Chris?
Well, what mode's happening?
I don't know. Pass.
You seeded sexual deviant. Yeah, Jesus wept. There you go.
That means portion coming.
Yeah, I think we're beating off the track here, lads.
He's got all sorts of ones made up. So we've got all different modes. You know, like they have mapping, don't they, in MotoGP that comes up on the dash. Well, I've got all modes, but it's nothing to do with the bike. It's to do with me. So he's trying to control me as well. Because after the Silverstone thing, that was just basically being a throttle jockey, and it just ruined the tyre and it ruined a load of points, really. So I'm just trying to calm it down. But the consistency thing probably comes from because not having to override the bike so much. Previous years I've had a lot of mechanical DNFs as well. Not so many crashes really.
Yeah.
But a lot of mechanicals, and mainly the crashes that I've had in the past. I remember, for example, like Assen last year, I was convinced I was going to crash because I didn't want to finish further down the field. So I just pushed to the point that I knew I was going down, and I did. So when you feel a bit more comfortable and confident on the bike, then it's easier, isn't it? You can not that you ride within yourself, because you don't, but you've got that little bit of margin. So I'd say that's a little bit of it.
Totally get that. What about in terms of your relationship with Josh? When we spoke to Josh, we were talking about his relationship with Scott Redden, and he was describing how not so much at the beginning of the season, but very quickly it sort of developed into two sides of the garage, and it was almost like two teams within the same team, if you like. Has it for you and Josh, do you sort of share data, or is it do you just sort of your side of the garage and his side?
We share data, so the data goes, that's nothing to do with me and Josh, whether we are or aren't friends. So that's friends, fight friends. What about friends?
Oh my god.
He doesn't watch in between us.
Oh, why not?
I know.
Because it's shite.
You're missing out.
No, I'm not missing out. I'm not missing out. It's far from it.
Right,
anyway,
we'll have a little box set.
No. I'll box summit, and never mind box setting. Right, come on, let's
we'll
get
have an in-betweeners and chill night, me and you, and you'll enjoy it.
I'm the big spoon. Anyway, let's continue.
The data gets shared regardless. My relationship with me and Josh has definitely changed as the season's gone on. Definitely. Not from my side. I was surprised when it changed. So.
Do you think maybe Josh didn't think of you as much of a threat to start with, and then when you were winning races and dishing some portions, that sort of changed? Or
I'm glad you said it because that's basically what I think's happened. To be fair,
Right.
And it's interesting that he said we did a Zoom thing for the top five us the other day, and we were asked about teammates, and Josh had said, and his actual quote was basically saying that it's funny because he always starts off with a good relationship with teammates, and it always seems to go away. I don't see it's that hard to understand that there's one common denominator in that, and that's probably that maybe it's something from his side a little bit.
Yeah, mine. It's such a difficult sport in that respect because it's such a sort of selfish,
teammates is the wrong term.
It is the wrong term.
Yeah.
You don't have to be mates, do you?
No. It's not even that. It's you're competing against each other.
100%.
You know what I mean? You're not like a bunch of competitive sailors, are you, on the same boat thinking, if we don't work together, this thing's going to sink. You are out to absolutely rip chunks out of each other.
Yeah.
When you think of, like Carl
End of it.
Fogarty always, used to say, like, he used to have to hate his rivals, and it was all part of the racing, and it's nothing personal at all. And like you said when you were last on the podcast about what Josh was like, and obviously we sort of got to know him. We sat in, it was like 3 hours or something, that podcast, and that was the first time I've ever spoke to him. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was kind of like Josh away from the garage, away from the race, and it was almost like the person type of thing. But when it comes to racing, it's your job at the end of the day, and it's each person's different, and obviously he does a good job and gets the results. So if that's what he needs to do to sort of to get the results, then obviously it's working for a minute.
I want to tread carefully on this subject a little bit. Just it's going out after the race weekend anyway, so it's not like I'm going to try and, or is it?
Maybe,
This is live. This is live.
It'll probably
Anyway.
go before the weekend.
Right. Well,
So get the mind games in now.
no. Well, that's what. It's nothing to do with mind games. It's just being.
True.
Yeah, I listened quite closely to the podcast that you did with Josh.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, and some of the things it's really, really insightful, and I did actually really enjoy it. But I do also think quite strongly that Josh came on here wanting to tell a story, and it was very much a narrative that was set, and any time that there was any interjection, you got cut quite short, and the story continued. So I think that everything that Josh does is very sort of
Calculated.
yeah. He has a reason for doing things. He didn't decide suddenly that he wanted to come on the podcast just through the goodness of his own heart. I don't think it was to tell a story, as much as I'm sure he loves you two guys.
Chrissy.
From that point of view as well, I think it was when you're saying it's a calculated thing, it was very well calculated.
Oh,
Because
100%. And
like,
I really enjoyed it.
And he's
really
on this
enjoyed it.
for the third time, so fair play.
Yeah, I'm more calculated. 3 times more calculated.
the amount of positive comments. Do you know what? The amount of like comments on YouTube, Twitter that have said like how much they thought he was X, Y, and Z, and like they've actually changed their opinion and think he's like a top bloke now. So obviously it was a good sort of decision or career move or whatever. But
I really don't want to speak bad of Josh because I've got the utmost respect for him, like as a racer. I'm just surprised how it changed a little bit, and it is strange. Like if you just as a very simple little bit of thing, if you're bored, if you go back to anything from round 2 onwards, he's not mentioned my name once in a single interview. Once. So it's a very strange little dynamic that we've got going on. We didn't have words, but we had, after the 3rd race at Alton, he beat me. He won the race and I finished 2nd. And we were waiting for the post-race interview with Eurosport, and I just asked him if he was going to start talking to me again, because I just wanted it to be clear the air a little bit. There'd been a strange little dynamic going on, and he just didn't want to even say hello to me. So I wanted that gone, really. So I just asked him flat out, and the answer that came out of his mouth was not if you carry on passing me. Now I know he didn't really mean to say that exactly, but sadly for him, that's what came out of his mouth, and I think that probably was what was in the back of his mind. That probably was the true thing. He stopped speaking to me at Silverstone. So once he said, not if you carry on passing me, he then retracted the comment a little bit, and he went, well, I mean like the race 3 at Silverstone when Bridewell passed the pair of us because we ran each other deep. But again, I didn't really believe it because he'd stopped speaking to me at the start of Silverstone, so I don't see how he stopped speaking to me because of a pass I made on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So yeah, things have changed, but we don't not get on. So it's not like it's funny because I do a bit of track tuition with Whittam, and one of the Eurosport people had overheard our conversation, so Whit was straight on to me going, "Hey, you and Josh were having an argument. What was it about?" And it wasn't an argument. It was genuinely just a little conversation, and it got cut short anyway because we had to do our interview. So there is honestly no bad feelings as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Josh is his own character, and I also take that with full understanding because he is how he is.
Yeah.
And I actually respect him more for that. So, on track, I respect him 100%.
I was going to say that
We don't have to be best mates.
No.
It's strange because we have very similar interests and jobs and stuff. So
the racing's been, especially between the two of you, has been like extreme. Like considering you're both going for the same goal and you're so close on track. Like it's been, I think, very respectful.
Yeah,
and, like,
100%.
really,
Yeah.
obviously, there was that. I do remember seeing that thing, and you were both battling for a position, and both ran wide, and Bridewell got. And there was like a few. There was a few passes that at Snetterton, and it was kind of. Do you know when lobsters are fighting for like a hierarchy, and obviously there was you
Out of
two.
all the predators in
Two
the world,
lobsters.
Chris,
No, but it's, lobsters
tell
are
you-
actually a really
it's the right colour.
You know the lobsters are a real good analogy because they work very similar to humans. But anyway, used to were going for the hierarchy of the who's number one in the team, and it was very obvious
when he wins the
Brooks,
championship, he's going to go, "I am the top lobster." Top lobster. You know what I mean?
when Brooks was overtaking you, you weren't holding back with your passing, and you were firmly establishing that you're not there to follow him for second. You're there to try and win yourself. And obviously, it's interesting just watching from afar of like how that's went on. But yeah, I would say like the racing's been like. At the front of BSB, full stop. The racing's been really, really fair, and
I think it has. I think the
clean.
racing's been very clean so far. There's a possibility it's going to change a little bit this weekend, but I don't think it will that much because I do think that everyone's got that much. Whatever everyone feels off the track, I think everyone's got a lot of respect for each other on the track, and I do think that what it's like in bike racing. It's not a safe sport, so you have to have respect. Even if you really hated someone, you would struggle to put a dangerous move on someone just because you just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You're not messing about.
You've got so much to lose.
Yeah, but
No, not just injury side of it. It's like you've got to think about championship points. It's like let's go back
No,
to it.
but
Like
I
Andrew
just don't
Irwin,
think you would
he's made some rider decisions, good, bad, or indifferent, or anything like that. But the fact is, he's gone for opportunities, and he's been punished, and both not by race control, but quite frankly, socially.
yeah,
Hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, it's also that side of it. Yes, the respect, and obviously you'd struggle. But in the same breath, there is a lot more risk than reward about duffing someone up, period.
There's
Especially at your level, when you've got Eurosport cramming up your arse, waiting for, quite frankly, a fuck-up.
yeah.
Has there ever been any sort of team meetings where like you're both going into the championship?
Who's
one and
top
two
lobster today?
one and two at the moment. Has there been team discussions of obviously if any like you must not take each other out type of thing, or
Nah,
is that just
Birdie gets really nervous, really nervous. So he has mentioned a few overtakes that we've done on each other, and
He must get a kick out of
and
that.
he tells us that his butt cheeks are nipping at the time, and I tell him not to worry. But I think he half enjoys it as well.
I'm not being funny, but if he wanted people like safe and away from each other, he would pick a fast lad and a slower lad, wouldn't he? He gets the two top.
He did. He just didn't realise what would happen.
No, but you know what I mean. But there's no point going out there. He's putting the best entertainment on the grid, and he wants to win, and that's what happens when you go for wins. You start clashing
but
veterans.
there's been no discussions really. Nothing coming into the last round. There's been nothing, which I don't expect there to be either.
yeah?
Can I ask you something that you probably won't answer? But are you getting phone calls of anyone else at this point of the season? I'm just like curious. Do
Do you
riders
mean
start
like
getting
next year?
Next
or-
year, of opportunities.
I thought you meant off
when-
rivals.
Hello, son. There you are. No, but I meant like
I'm coming for you.
that's it. You're gonna get a Porsche.
On that topic, have you signed you were on a 1-year contract, weren't you?
Yeah,
Is
1-year
next
contract.
year sorted, or is it?
I I don't really know what's happening. I would really like to stay where I am. That's pretty obvious, and I've made that pretty clear to Birdie. I would say he's quite happy with how things are going. I hope he is. From what I can gather, he's pretty happy. I would absolutely love to stay. This year's been, regardless of what happens this weekend, or last weekend, depending when you listen to it, then I still think it's been good, but it's still not been a proper championship. It's still been a shortened, curtailed, strange situation. That's all of it.
You know what I mean? It's a championship, nonetheless.
I know, but what I mean is I would love to have
12 rounds, because you're greedy.
Well, yeah.
It
just seems like such a whirlwind. It almost feels like the journey hasn't quite started and it's nearly already at the end of this year. That's how quick and strange it feels.
But so, for someone who's not in BSB, looking from the outside looking in, it is by far been the best racing I've ever seen, like championship-wise. You haven't even had a showdown, and this hasn't had to be, and this is closer than a showdown anyway. It's phenomenal entertainment and watching-wise. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, you'd never know who you're racing against for a start. I mean, there's been some people who've been... I mean, how fast Kyle Ryde was at certain rounds. And actually, to be fair, has been the whole time, just been a bit unlucky with certain things. But and, Buchan's up there, and then sometimes he's not. And Lee Bob's always nipping at your heels. There's so many riders that can put it to you.
Who's been your biggest surprise this year in terms of, outperformed or underperformed?
That's a bit harsh for the underperformed.
That's a bit on the spot there.
Overperformed then. Is there anyone that you've thought, bloody hell, I wasn't expecting them to be passing?
Not overperformed, but I mentioned two of them then, really. But Kyle has been really, really impressive.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time with Kyle because we coach together, and I enjoy spending time with him because the way that he looks and the way that he acts is actually very different. I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's like quite a... What's his look? He's like
Eminem.
Yeah, he looks like Eminem, but he's
rather than gangster.
Properly analytical, and he really, really is, and he knows his racing inside out.
Yeah,
and the way he thinks through his races is very, very impressive.
He's unbelievably consistent. I've only ever seen him on a pit bike track. You know what I mean? Even on a pit bike, he can go within a tenth of his time. Yeah. And it's just like you say. He's so analytical.
I think he's been very, very, very impressive, and
especially at
Silverstone. And then another one, it's been a little bit more under the radar, but I think that Lee Jackson's had a superb season.
I think the odds on him getting more points than Danny by the end of the season, you would have got brilliant odds. And he's although Danny's shown glimpses of excellence, Lee's been so much more consistent and is.
When I'm riding with Lee Bob, what I've noticed, and I may be wrong, but it just seems like he's very in control of his bike, and in control of the situation, which means that once he unlocks that little bit extra, I think he has got even more to give. Just when you watch him on track, he's not scratching, and he seems to be able to put the bike where he wants, even when he's at the front of the field. So it's almost as if he's got a little bit in hand.
Yeah.
Now sometimes you ride with people and they are actually hanging it out, and you don't realise. You always think that the other person's got a bit more in hand, but it just when I've ridden with him at a few rounds, he's been impressive.
From being on track with the other lads, what do you put the demise of the BMWs and superbikes to? Obviously, there's quite a lot of BMWs, and they've all consistently struggled this year. You'd have to say sort of either Brad or Luke Mossey's been the best out of them, but the likes of Hickman's a safe bet for the showdown every year, and he's been nowhere this year.
It's not worked for him at all.
Barbara has been nowhere.
I mean, Hector, the world's best caravan, wasn't even anywhere at Donington, was he? So
what's the world's best caravan?
Oh, he's a full on just hitches on, doesn't he, in qualifying? You ever seen him? Oh my God. He puts his safety catch on, he plugs into the electric, he's away with you. Oh, he's horrendous. The trouble with Hector Barber is he forgets he's getting a tow, so sometimes he then passes you and then loses his head.
Really?
So he tries to get a tow in qualifying, then he outbrakes you, and then he's like, where do I go?
He struggled so much this year, hasn't he? And he's a class rider, but for some reason all of the BMWs just seem to struggle.
Hickman to me is obviously for most is the biggest surprise.
Yeah. Speaking of surprises, do you know where he's going next year? He's announced he's got a new ride for someone. Come on.
I think I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anything like underhand or not underhand, but I don't know anything about anything. But I would assume it's all the similar setup. It's just going to be rebranded or renamed something different.
Right.
It's all is as far as I can
No, but that's
deduce from it. And I would assume that it was going to be on a different bike.
Interesting. No, because that's what brought my question forward. You know, at what point do the cards start shuffling? I know it's all behind closed doors, these conversations, but it's interesting when you think how many deals actually get sorted even before the final round.
Is Brooksy signed for next year, or is he still?
I don't know. I really don't know. This year, I think it's been a bit more strange because you've not had that sort of by the time you get to showdown sort of time of year. That's when the conversations are starting, and I think everyone's been almost that busy with getting through the racing that things haven't really
been as fluent.
Yeah, most of the signings are actually some of your not the biggest of the names, if you know what I mean. Not the top 10, for example, in the series. The ones that have signed up already.
Not the top lobsters.
Well, no. Normally, what happens is it starts from the top lobsters that get signed up, and it filters its way down. That's the normal way that racing goes. So,
yeah, of course it is.
For example, last year Brookes was the top rider that was going to be staying in the championship. So once he found his place, then it sort of filters down who's left, and then it sort of works its way down, and you find your place in the team's pecking order.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, a lot of the teams that are a bit further down the rankings, for whatever reason, seem to have signed up their riders quite early on. So it's actually not the top 10 sort of riders that have been signed up already. It's the.
It'll also be interesting to see if any World Superbike riders or sort of ex-MotoGP riders come down, because you know there's possibilities of some moves.
And not just saying that though. Have they actually when do they announce another calendar for the BSB?
That's another Boris, don't you?
That's actually a really interesting point.
It is.
I think it's a bit of a delayed season coming next year.
Well, I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Of course, whether the climate we're in and all that jazz, but it's
also abroad testings. There's a massive question mark over that, isn't there?
No, but like CRMC, Thundersport, provisional. Like obviously the lower club meetings, they haven't been able to confirm anything as such. But but
what it has shown this season is that the season can be run in very difficult conditions, which is very impressive.
Considering at the beginning of this, it was very much Stuart Higgs was quite open about it, going, if we can't get any spectators in, we possibly might not be able to do the full championship, even a compressed one. But fair play to Stuart and all the team and everyone to be able to continue the championship, because by meeting number 3, because they were classing you as your class, as each race is around, which is a load of crap. I mean, but it's like
sponsors.
I mean, racing's difficult.
I suppose
racing's difficult to. The sponsorship side's difficult to sell at the best of times, but with not having any spectators, it's making the job so much harder. And I think the good thing about bike racing, I think, is people that are involved in racing and sponsoring side. There's a massive passion element. You wouldn't really do it from a pure business point of view. It's maybe a difficult sell, where the likes of the main sponsors, you tend to find the owners of companies that are doing well and they love bike racing, or they know someone. Or
again, I mean that's a really, really valid point in terms of if you actually think of pure branding on motorbike racing, it's very difficult to get the return from a pure branding perspective. One, because basically our billboards are far smaller. Like if you go to sponsor a touring car team, for example, you've got a massive car to put your logo all over. But then, like you say, a lot of it is from a passion point of view. But then those sponsors would then also like to be involved. So the fact that this year we've had such limited availability to have anyone on site. So when those sponsors would like to come along and not be involved as in actively involved, but be within the race atmosphere, and you can't do, that's when it becomes difficult, I think. So I do think it's been an amazing championship to get through, but I do think it'll struggle. For example, I know that obviously BSB's run this year with no spectators, but it must be a huge loss financially for them.
It's got to be at least £1 million on the gate each weekend.
It's got to be, isn't it?
It's massive numbers, and then everyone buys a burger and everyone buys a t-shirt and everyone, it's
sheets.
Yeah, sheets on sheets. 25%.
25%. No, but the mad thing, while we're talking about the demise of motorsport, it's Mervyn White stepped down from the Northwest 200, so someone's got a big pair of shoes to fill there, massive pair of shoes.
I wonder if we'll get in touch with Dishy Wishy. I wonder if he can help us out a little bit.
There we go. That's an inside joke I have no idea about. There we go.
Rishi Sunak, man, the Chancellor.
He hands stuff out for all sorts.
They've
Loves it.
just given nearly £1 million to Beamish Museum, man. Keep them running for the arts.
Asking for sponsorship.
Surely BSB should be able to. No, like the furlough
Beamish
scheme
Museum, Ducati Racing.
A man can dream. A man can dream.
No, the old sponsor Vision. What's that?
Vision Track. So they do like camera systems and like GPS and all that for lorries, or mainly for fleet vehicles.
Mm. Team launch was well posh, wasn't it?
Well posh.
Did you see that?
The Shard.
No, the Shard in London. Is that the tallest building in London?
I don't know. I didn't dare look down. There wasn't much above me, that's for sure.
So you scared of heights?
I'm not keen on heights. What?
No, just wondering.
Do you know what? I don't like them because I have that irrational thing where like, for example, if you walk past an iron, I have to touch it. And if I walk over a bridge, I'm scared.
Do you know
that
how
I'm
many
jump
people are
off.
going to stop you racing this weekend?
No,
all your competitors are going to be putting hot irons out. You'll touch one. Guarantee you'll touch one.
Like whenever if you walk across a bridge, and I get like a fear that I'm going to jump off the bridge.
Really?
Yeah. Not because I want to jump off the bridge, but just
You think, oh, I wonder.
No, just I think my legs are going to do it. I'm like, oh, they're actually going to do it, and I have to keep walking and get away. So it's that worry.
Getting in the head of. What about magpies?
I'm sorry, but this is very rich coming from me. But you need help.
You never have those little irrational little things that you thoughts and no.
Do you ever get it when
Just
you're
me then.
racing?
I get uncomfortable when I get like an uncontrollable erection now and then, but it's about that. That's about the
Which is
stamina
why
being-
you're always sweating.
Naturally, it's sitting here. That's why the table's low. So occasionally when you get a thud, that's me.
Do you salute magpies?
No, don't
So
start me. That's
He's
not
not
a
from
thing.
the north.
Is that a
He's
new
not
Geordie
from the
doing
north.
anything
He's
now?
not from the north. There
No,
we go.
If Geordies see magpies, they say, what is it? Good afternoon, Mr. Magpie, and salute them. I know people that do that.
You're the lobster man. Anything can happen with him. So, all right, hold on. Let's. I want to ask you a quick question. Do you think the TT will go?
Well, I read something the other day that it's cancelled. I don't know how much cock and bull that was. It's obviously can't be true yet because there's been no announcement.
Well, they're making an announcement. The Manx government make an announcement in December. Now, and then I spoke to someone, like, that's a problem. It's like an ongoing rumour mill. Then someone says they're going to make an official announcement in March. But the last thing I read from Manx Radio was they're going to make a call in December about the TT. In your opinion, with all this crap going on, do you think it's going to go?
Well, my opinion doesn't count for anything in this whole situation.
Oh, don't be...
No,
look, it's
but you know what I
give
mean.
and take.
This is-
Come on.
This is the first time I've ever felt like I don't agree with something and there's nothing I can do about it.
Do you mean
The whole
lockdown?
situation, the whole thing. That I know everyone's got a point of view, and rightly or wrongly, but mine... it's the first time I've ever felt like almost... kind of anxious about something, because I know there's nothing I can do, and you see things that are happening, and you're like, I don't agree with that, what can I do about it? And the answer is nothing.
We're all helpless. But as far as... I really just want your opinion on it. Because me, personally...
I don't see why it shouldn't go ahead, is my opinion.
Right.
But that's only my opinion. It's an event on an island. You're not all close together. Even if you were all packed together, I don't think anyone that is going to be affected by such a thing is going to turn up for fear of.
As in, like, vulnerable people would stay at home. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then the second point is it's on a flipping. No, I was going to say a great big island. It's not a great big island, but it's on an island big enough to house a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't see why it shouldn't go ahead, but I don't see why we shouldn't have spectators at Brands
that's the thing,
Hatch
isn't
and
it?
all sorts.
I was down at Donington at the weekend at the No Limit, and it was so nice finishing a race, going down Crane Kids and people
spectators.
waving, and I was like, there was maybe a couple hundred or whatever around the track, but it was so nice to like wave, rather than wave at marshals, but like it was so nice to like get a bit of clapping and photographers out and
But
about.
in club racing,
You're quite egotistic, aren't you? Oh, they're all here for me. I'm just going to lower my zip a bit.
But I think in club racing, it's seen a lot more people through the gate, spectators, because
They can't
it's
go-
restricted.
Yeah,
It's becoming
because they can't go to
exclusive,
they can't go to the elite sport, whatever's classed as elite sport events. So like they can't go to BSB, they can't go to touring cars, but they will go to the club event car race or the club event bike race because they're starved of bike racing. So we'll go and
The world is mad at the moment. Like the other day, I've just joined this gym and it's got a little like a swimming pool and jacuzzi and stuff. And I was sat in the jacuzzi with about 10 other people, and I was just thinking, legally, I'm not allowed to go and see my sister. And I'm sat in a jacuzzi, like 10 other, and like this is legal. And I'm just thinking, there's no spectators allowed at BSB, but like this, and it's just madness. But hey ho, we'll,
we digress.
Digress. One other thing I seen the other beautiful new helmet design was it the
You looking at helmets again, Chrissy. Lobsters and helmets. This is what you're about.
Do you know how you and Josh have got such similar helmets? Was that planned?
In the wet race, we wore very similar helmets.
The blue ones.
Yeah. No, so I run HJC helmets, and all my helmets have slightly different helmet designs.
Like the Monsters Inc. one was mint, the green one.
Yeah,
That
was a
when
good
you're
one.
on the BM.
That's
class.
a normal design, and actually this year, so they brought out a Superman one, and I've worn that for a few rounds because I really like it. So they often say, "Oh, will you wear this one? It's a standard
Limited
design."
edition, yeah.
Some of them they asked me to wear one a few years back, and actually me and Emlav had to toss a coin for which one was going to have to wear it, and I lost because it's certainly like I'm not into like the Marvel comics and all that, and it was a Venom and something else, and it was just horrible, and you were like, "Oh no." But actually, I wore it, and the comments on the internet and stuff, like, people love it. So it's obviously just a taste thing, and I don't have great taste. However, this Superman one that I'm wearing at the moment, I really like it.
Which looks horrendous, by the way.
No,
I'm joking.
So is that a standard design? That's
The
Yeah,
Superman
no, you can buy
one
it.
is a standard design, yeah,
Right.
and it's dead nice. So and I've just continued to wear it.
Because he gets 25%, Chrissy. So,
30.
sheets.
30.
And my wet helmet design, it just happened to be Josh got this new blue helmet, and my wet helmet was the same colour. So
It looked mint, to be fair.
it was just in that race. It looked very, very similar. But yeah, all through when I was motocrossing, like to have your own painted helmet was the be all and end all. So I remember being a kid motocrossing. All I ever wanted was my own painted helmet, and I remember the first time I got one, and it actually wasn't painted for me. My dad bought it off someone else, so it wasn't my design or whatever, and it was just the best thing I'd ever got. And I remember actually crashing pretty much the first race out, and I cracked the peak, and I cried all the way home because I'd cracked the peak on this thing. But now that I'm in a position where you can I'm able to have painted helmets, I like try and make the use of it. So that's why I have different ones, because I almost want to have different designs and something slightly different. I just think it's the most
Who
amazing
does yours?
thing. Paint Nation.
Yeah, I've got them on Twitter. They do some mega ones.
Yeah, really, really nice. He does a great job.
Well,
Do you have any lucky charms when you go racing? See, me,
Like
I've got to have green. Like, I've got to have green on us. I don't know why. I feel weird without. I'm not, which is weird. I'm not superstitious in anything. I walk under ladders and cats across the road, all that crap. But I feel uncomfortable.
And where
I
did the
don't
green?
have-
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Well, my dad raced my dad raced spikes, and he's always, as a joke, because he was a civil servant for the Forest Commission, and for a joke, it was a running joke. He always had a green tree, like the Forest Commission logo, on his lid. And unfortunately, my dad's had been in some seriously big crashes, and I'm very lucky that he's still here. And it's been that ongoing thing that he's always had a green tree on his lid. ever since I've gone racing, I've gone, yep, slap that on.
But everything does stem from somewhere. That's why I ask, because everything you say
Yeah,
you're
of
not
course it does.
superstitious, but you're massively superstitious because you've got this thing about the green.
Just that though. It's just like that. Like everything else, it can go to tits. But I tell you what. Speaking of going to tits, I would like to introduce you to someone. My brand new crew chief, who's involved me in motorcycle racing, and I would like you to meet an absolute living legend, Sugar Tits. Sugar Tits, get yourself up here. There you are. So, I would like to introduce you to Sugar Tits. So, Sugar Tits, this is Christian Iddon. Now, do you actually have any idea who Christian Iddon is? Let's be honest.
Only through the previous podcasts,
Oh, you see.
hearing that he was the adopted Geordie.
There we go. So does he live up to the muster here, Sugar Tits?
I haven't got the accent for it yet, have I?
Not yet.
I'm not talking like a proper one yet, am I?
We're looking like a budget Ali G tonight, Sugar.
It does look like a boy band over there. The grey, the head. That's it. When's the album getting released, boys? When's the album getting released? So there we go. So, yeah. Now the reason I want you to meet Sugar Tits is now you've come from a heavy motocross background, and like you say, where your lids getting sprayed and everything, big deal. Now the last thing this man did that was good and fell out his ballsack was a British champion, and unfortunately he smashed his arm up, hasn't he? Recently, motocrossing.
Yeah.
How's the boy getting on?
He's all right at the minute. I think it was about 3.5 weeks ago.
How long's he got left on the arm?
I think it's a week and a half left now.
Bloody hell, not long then. So, but the mad thing is, so he's done his arm in motocrossing, which is the dangerous side of it. Now, what were you doing on Sunday?
Motocrossing.
Motocrossing. Now, isn't that a bit close to this weekend coming for the, it's, I find that incredible.
I plan to go tomorrow, but I've been rained off.
Honestly,
That is incredible. That
I
is,
admire that, right? I've got time for that.
risk and reward. So you just, is it, no, but you see, like, we were just talking about that previously, your attitude towards step by step, lap by lap, situation by situation. But I'm not going to lie, if I'm going to come home and win a championship at British level, I wouldn't be motocrossing.
Think positively. Back yourself.
Well, just because I like to ride a bike as often as I can because I just think it's mint, and I think you end up, even though I'm not riding on a road race bike, I think it makes a big difference. You think you get to a race weekend almost sort of in the motorbike riding mindset. Mm-hmm. So I've for a couple 2 or 3 years now, I've always tried to go motocrossing on the Wednesday that I leave. I tend to leave on a Wednesday afternoon like I am doing tomorrow. So I would have gone motocrossing, washed the bike, jumped in the caravan and gone.
Do you know, you mentioned Sugar Tits, it's just suddenly, like, it was like a, what's the word, like a eureka moment. Do you know, a couple of ages ago you were talking about woodland treasure, like when you find porn in the woods, right? Now, have
you never seen this?
What's woodland treasure?
Woodland treasure, right, is when you find extremely weird things in laybys, woodlands, or on work sites. Now, we've come from a work background, but basically, we've at work, like, used to find bin liners of porn mags, like ripped up porn mags, and I found a suitcase filled with gimp gear and all sorts. It's been a right like woodland treasure. But the best thing is, everyone puts the tools down and goes, "Lads, come have a look what I found out here," and everyone's like, "Right." Dropped it straight over, and everyone's just throwing around butt plugs and stuff like that. This is mint crack.
I tell you what, I came.
Where are you going with this, Chris?
I discovered some.
I'm worrying about this.
It's got nothing to it. I've discovered some Instagram treasure the other day. Do you know Marco Melandri's missus? Have you ever seen on Instagram? My goodness me! Have you ever came across?
Can you hand me phone over this?
Have you ever done what? Sorry, Chrissy.
Have you done Marco Melandri's missus? Yeah, you
Is that
have
Dom's
been.
phone?
That is I.
For anyone that's listening, if you're wanting a little a treat, get on. I can't remember her name, but go on Marco Melandri's Instagram and check it out. You'll thank us later.
Where did that come from?
Sugar Tits links in my brain, and just
You're
the second
of just
part
tits.
of that.
Oh my good god! But no, so like if you haven't caught up with the last 2 episodes, I've actually had a go at motocross myself. Now, normally, as every rider, you get an opportunity to defend yourself, and I thought, I'm going to be a little bit different and actually deliver the truth, unlike every other rider, and sugarcoat stuff. So, I've got Sugar Tits here, pretty much to explain my weekend. I had a go at sand racing, and it's horrendous. Absolutely. Have you, obviously, you've raced, and what do you make of sand racing? Like, sand tracks, should I say?
Well, motocross on sand is what I think is the hardest way to go motocrossing. Because it's mint if you ride fast, because you sort of float across top of the sand. And if you roll off, you just sink, and I'm assuming that's what you've done.
Well, here we go. This is your shining moment to tell the world how I...
Sunk.
Well,
quite
how I
literally.
got on.
To be fair, he wasn't that bad.
Was it
I've
down?
seen worse.
So was it? Was it Sherwood Forest?
I were down at Sherwood Forest, Mansfield area.
Right. And did you not enter Dom into the expert class or something?
Thank you. No,
Damn right I did.
not
Second time ever.
second motocross, fifth time ever on a motocross bike. You'd be alright in the experts. You'd be alright. And I'm
He's
going.
safest, isn't he?
No,
That is a good point.
If you look at the riders on the line, the C class, they all just roll round and going to overtake you. Normally, it's just a throttle jockey chance. B class, they're getting there, but they're still game on taking you clean out. And the experts, you've only got Brad Anderson and Lewis Hall.
these are
Easy.
the easy. Now hold on. So right at this point, he's filled me full of confidence with sweet lies. I'm thinking, all right, yeah, no problem. Why would a friend of mine lie to me, Christian? Why would he lie to me? This is obviously a very. You guys be alright, man. You'd be alright, mid pack, no bother. So obviously, I took that upon myself, and obviously listening to the show, everyone thinks I don't do any homework. I did a lot of homework. I found out who these names are and who they belong to, and all sorts. And pretty much, I worked out the difference between a B rider and an A rider is around about 30 seconds a lap quicker. So at this
And if
point,
you're Brad Anderson, a newly crowned world champion.
Do you know how old Brad Anderson is?
Go on.
39. He's 40 next year.
Is he just won
He's
the
a
world
legend.
Has he just won the world
Honest, mate.
championship?
Did he just not just win the two-stroke world championship?
The AMX.
Come on, our
Think it
our
might-
motocross
it's so-
expert.
Mate, I don't
Totally
follow it
has.
that often unless I'm there on the weekend.
Totally
No, I
has.
think he. I'm not sure if there's another round to go
Oh.
yet. We did win the last European. I think they're doing 2 meetings in Italy not long ago.
And how did you find it then? So you
so at this point, so Brad is stand there, his mate who does loads of like electrical work with, he set up this team like called Team USA. So at this point, this is a team event. Now, what I've discovered is everyone at these motocross events is, in the professional terminology, sandbags. So you've got A lads at like Northeast Club meetings who have entered in the C's. And then you've got pretty like semi-professionals entering the B's, and then you've got world-class stamp in A class. So at this point, after discovering all these facts, I hit the panic button and began to shit myself, Chrissy. I'm not going to lie. And I talked through now there's 35 people in the team? Now explain to
There
me.
was 4 per group on the.
4 per group. So explain the classes. So you had 60.
You had your autos, your 65, small wheel 85, big wheel 85, your rookies, your C's, your B's, and your A's. So you had 8 groups.
So I started off asking. No, so I started off with the sensible situation of where do I think I belong in this. So I asked the first 8-year-old person I could find and asked to be in the 65 class. At that point, I would still got my arse handed to us, and then worked up the ladder from there. Then I met, what was his name? David.
Aye, David Softly.
David Softly, if you are listening to us, thank God you turned up. So basically, this guy turned up, just wanted a cigarette, so gave the man a cigarette, and we proceeded to swap class after that. And my God, I did not get chucked in the deep end, Christian. Without armbands, nothing. I got my arse absolutely handed to us. And this is after announcing to me, dear Gran, right, who doesn't really like me racing motorcycles. She goes, "What you on with this weekend, son?" I said, "Oh, it's a hell of a weekend, mind." She goes, "Wait, what's on?" I said, "I'm racing at international level at motocross." She can't see a nut. I can't. I'm riding for the US of A. Bearing in mind, his electrician mate just came up with a team name just to take the piss. So me grand there thinking I'm an international motocross rider, which is fantastic. So
With a new passport.
with a brand new passport, that's exactly it. So I went off into the race. Oh my God, mate, it was so quick. And riding in sand, like it, you just said, like if you ride quick, you don't sink. I sunk on every bit of that track ever. And then I proceeded. Well, it got soaking and it got rutty and it got wet. Now, the thing I find amazing about motocross is the concentration level. Now, when you go short circuit or even road racing, you can hit the same bump consistently every lap. You know, the tarmac doesn't change dramatically. Yes, you can have different like surfaces, like such as water, oil, grease, whatever. But like when you go motocrossing, every time you go into that corner, it is never ever the same.
surprise.
It totally is, and you just that reaction time, it was totally phenomenal. How you were standing, mate, I had my body position all wrong, me like language and all. I was as useless as Superman's cape. I was just hanging off the back of this 450 going, just go fast, and I was just like barely jumping, barely doing this. I was up, but I tell you, it was just absolutely phenomenal, to the point I massively made a mistake, and I only learned this mistake after I injured myself. So it got soaking like it's raining right now, and it's called a dab, and I'm not talking that stupid bloody thing kids do with their arms. I put my feet down, my leg got stuck, and the bike proceeded to go forward. So, and I felt like I spent a night with the Playboy Mansion. My groin was gone, like totally gone. And this man here, Sugar Tits, you have not competitively raced a motorcycle.
Whoa, it'll be an easy. How long Hayden's
competitively?
10 now.
Go on then. so he's got
Hayden will have been 2-year-old or something, so it'll be 8-9 years ago.
8-9 years ago, and he was on a 125, and he's considerably slimmer. He used to fit in that top.
I was going to say. Oh, we just had a bit of battery failure there, just as we were discussing Craig's kite.
Just starting to rip into us, went it?
Fatherhood's been good to you.
Tell you what, man, speaking of motocross, I'm going to have to get I'll give you a call as soon as the season finishes. I'm going to have to get out, because I got that KX450 at the beginning of the year, and it's had about as much use as Anne Frank's drum kit this year. It's just but I'll be straight out. Soon as Brad's is over, I'll be straight on the phone. You can teach us how to ride, because I'm not very good.
This man could, because we had to, like, after I knocked me leg, like, my top of me groin there, Sugar Tits stepped in for us, mate. So after 8 years being off a bike, I tell you what cheered me up to no end is that fire never goes. It seriously doesn't, right? So there's him. So at this point, we're trying to keep it secret. Obviously, we've had a quick chat with the organisers and said, look, can we do a quick swap and everything like that? Swap details, blah, 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 everything's kosher, everything's good to go. So he's rolled up on the B grid like that with my lid on that fits. He's got boots which is a size too small for him.
Just
and
one.
I tell you what, right? That zip, right, would have killed the next man he breathed out on. It was all together. And so anyway, he's in this gear, right, and all, like, bearing in mind his wife, right, is straight to the point. His son is even straight to the point. His daughter Olivia, considerably to the point. I was shitting myself about being the age, and they're like, pussy, soft shade, what's the matter with you? Fancy getting on the bike, Craig? Nothing. Deadly quiet, sweat running off him. He's like, I'm like, yeah, Harry, Craig? Yeah, shut up. He's squeezing these boots in. I'm thinking, it's amazing when the shoe's on the other foot, princess. And so anyway, nerves were kicking in. I'd say it was funny as hell, because I got left totally to myself, right? 100% to myself. I was just pulling up at the grid. Tom, Dick, and that, everyone's, who's this wannabe? He turns up on the grid. 7 other kids turn up. They're patting out the track. People are massaging him. People are like that going, you've got this, Craig, this guy. You've got people coming out the other side of the paddock. You've got dads going, Statty's on the bike. Sugar Tits is going on the bike. So anyway, the grid's filled up, man. COVID went out the window. This is the moment in motocross, you know what I mean? I think even Brad Anderson got a text going, LOL, guess who's out? So we just pulled up on the grid, and I've never seen hunger like it. And the mad thing is, it was looking like I was looking at an older, fatter version of me going, and I'm going, he's got this. And like everyone's going, he's got horse shot. He's never been on this bike, right? He's got a load of it from a bloke called Tubbs, which was fitting. So we pulled up on the grid, right? And mate, it was just arms rolling, back getting rolled, and it was just like, you know, the blip on the throttle when you see the pros going boom boom, this 450 that he's never sat on. And he just got on the grid. He's just sitting there, head down, arse up, and I just had full belief that this man never been on a bike in 8 years, and I just nudged me mate and went, he's fucking got this, like.
I'm glad he had the belief in us.
I'll tell you what, right? He shot off, and I filmed the whole thing. It was unbelievable, right? He's round the first corner. He's over the... Bear in mind, he's never been on the track, right? First tabletop, full straight cable stretch, clears the first one in 10th, and I've got, this is amazing. 2 laps later, he was bollocks. He was like I got on the bike. It was like a ragdoll. And the first thing he said to me about motocross, you take them goggles off, Dom, I'm going to slap you, right? 2 laps in, his son's there, is injured, British Championship son, right? And he just threw these goggles at him, right? He's mid-air and he goes, numbnuts, catch! And throws him at his son, hooks him at him, and he just went backwards and backwards and backwards. So Fat Dom was absolutely created. And I just like, and then, you know, when you're like, I've told everyone he's going to win this, and I just slowly slunk away in the crowd. You have no idea how proud I am of you. That was,
mate, man.
Were you regretting it the next day?
I pulled off the track, I was nearly spewing up. Couldn't breathe or nothing. Pulled back up to the van. I've undone me pants. I've undone me boots. I'm lay on the floor, buckled. He comes up and all I remember is, you're my hero.
but on it, but the thing is, though, he just stepped it because it's his mate's team. It's all about getting points. Stepped up to the plate. It was just that immediate hunger. But anyone else would have just said no, nothing, and just the proudness in your son's eyes.
Oh, mate, that was the best thing about it, man. I come back in and I thought, oh, he's going to abuse me here. All the times he's come in, I've gone, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I thought, I'm getting both barrels. You know what I mean? And he come in, he died on mint there. I thought, thank God for that. Everyone else can whistle like.
No, but honestly, I cannot exaggerate how quick this B class was. Like I say, they've totally sandbagged through the class, and he was in 10th after not being on a bike, and that is. But like,
do you do any racing?
That did only last for about 6 corners.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was glorious. But where would you put yourself in motocross? Like, you would be an expert, wouldn't you? Would you?
Honestly, like, I do think they're that fast. It's different going to a little practice track and having a bimble around. And basically, it's like going to a track day, innit? And you think you're fast, and then you actually go racing, you realise how fast people are. So, I was pretty quick back in my day, but I'm under no illusions as to how fast they go now.
Just speaking of motocross, it made us think about the whole shot device. Do you in BSB? Do you run a whole shot? No.
I would like one.
Look pretty cool, MotoGP and stuff. And
see, I still don't use one at motocross.
Do you not?
No.
Do you use launch control?
No.
I tell you what,
Full wheel ski.
The launch control on the BM is unbelievably good. Like, mega.
I've never got to use it.
I know.
Never got to use anything like that. But the
Superbikes don't have them, do they?
No, we don't have anything. But about the whole shot device, it's funny how they now use the whole shot device in MotoGP when they're racing.
Yes, yeah. Have you seen that?
Have you ever seen it?
So
it's amazing.
Ducati have got a system where when
Does that drop the back end on them?
When they get to a straight,
Does
yeah, and it drops it about maybe 10-15 mil, but then it makes it more aerodynamic down the straight, and then just before the braking zone, they've clipped it off and it lifts the bike.
But the rider has to physically do it themselves.
Yeah. And they're doing this mid
Yeah,
race.
so Pecco Bagnaia was the first one I think that gave it to properly to test it and make sure it was right, and that's when but then he got injured. But he was going really, really well until he.
The first time I seen it was Sepang, that really long straight, and they come out that last corner, and then it's like dudun, and then mega
That's
technology.
incredible.
Man,
Yeah, but they're using that device. Unbelievable to see.
It's been cars have used that for, it's like 20-year-old technology in cars, but when it's coming into bikes, it's.
Do you think that'll eventually get into us?
Getting on the M1 bump.
Do you not think it's taken away from the riders a bit though, as
Well,
well?
that's
Like
the thing.
the Formula One as well, isn't it? It's the
what
amount of controls they've got and they can change it all. Strategy and that.
I think it's really cool with the rules in Superbike, BSB especially, where it is, not too much electronics, and it kind of. But I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, racing in general is.
You've still got to be able to ride,
Well, progressing like technologies, and then that go like, for example, ABS. It was developed in racing, and then now everyone driving a car is safer because of it. But it's all technology from racing.
When MotoGP first went away from that, because they've now got a control ECU in it, and it has the racing's so much better since it's had a control ECU. However, all the teams basically didn't want to run a control ECU because what they want to do is develop their systems, like you were saying, for all their future models.
Yeah, and I think
in racing. So actually, it means that they can't develop anything new.
BMW had a huge argument with organisers around that time because they purely do the racing to develop stuff to then pass it down into the road technology. So they can't really justify just doing it just for racing if it wasn't for that reason. But speaking of touching on MotoGP, I seen the results this weekend. I didn't actually get to see the racing.
Have you watched any of it?
Nah.
Christian's going to be our go-to person for this one.
Well, I watched it on the turbo, so I was also blowing out my backside. So.
MotoGP this weekend was mega. Dodgy conditions in the race, and the championship's really close as well, isn't it? So kind of all to play for. Did you guys see any?
No, I just pretty much know that the Yamahas did absolutely nothing. Marquez has pulled his finger well and truly out. Well, Alex Marquez is. Now hold on, is the Marquez coming back?
Nah, I think they announced today that he wasn't coming back for this one. Aragon this weekend was supposed to be his return.
That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
It's interesting that Honda haven't really given Alex I would say a fair shout, but they've obviously replaced him with Paul Espargaro, I think he's won one race in like 10 seasons or whatever, and it's funny now. Alex,
has he won one?
I don't think has he never won one?
I don't know.
I think that is actually a stat. He's never won one, or he's had he hasn't done extremely well, has he? Bear in mind, he's been on the same bike as Tech 3. He's had some good rides, and he hasn't really done that much, and he's been given the factory Honda ride. But it's funny that now Alex has sort of upped his game, and I know dodgy conditions, you can't say too much, but Alex Marquez got his first podium, finished, was it second?
Second, yeah.
Did Crutchlow crash again?
Yes.
He did. Is he got a ride for next year? Or was that, what's all that about?
I think the rumour mill is that he's going to Aprilia, isn't there? But there's not many seats left, is there? Anywhere. They're all Aprilia, I think, are waiting to see if Iannoni's been on drugs or not been on drugs.
He's going to be on drugs, but is Bradley Smith was on the Aprilia, wasn't he?
And he was flying, so
he was doing mental.
Literally,
literally.
This year.
Because he went to motocross, didn't he? He went from MotoGP, then he had a dabble at motocross, and then he's gone back again. So Bradley Smith.
I was just doing for training.
I wasn't training. I thought he actually got a KTM ride.
No.
Hey, if you listen to this show, you'll take what I say. So, yeah, he was riding
he did.
KTM. You're damn right, yeah. Yeah, he did a fantastic job, yeah. Sugar Tits passed him on the outside.
No, but so Brad Smith was P1 in the first session, which was amazing. And actually, he was up to about 7th or 8th in the race when he crashed. But still a mint ride, considering his teammate finished just about last, I think, Aleix did.
And obviously Petrucci getting another win, which I think everyone's a Petrucci fan, really.
It's hard not to be.
Such a cool guy. And
the talking point has got to be that Moto2 race. For me, it is. I tell you what, you know what separates a winner from a championship, like a champion, is sheer utter class as a human being. In my opinion, it's been more the people's champion, and you could just see Dixon's reaction and how the whole world almost reacted to that. Some people, especially around Bladen, would go soft shade, but is what it means to him and his reaction.
I thought you were talking about Lowe's.
No, but Lowe's deserved that win. He made him how he saved that front end crash. That was if you haven't seen it, Sugar Tits, he just went straight, full lock brake, full side
smoke and everything.
Smoked a lot, and you think, how on earth have you saved that? So fair play of mine. But he was reeling him in. But more importantly, I think what impressed me as far as him being able to keep his job is how Dixon reacted to his pit boards.
He full on responded. It was really impressive.
Lowe's reeled him in from nearly a 2-second gap. And the thing about Lowe's is once he gets a reaction in the fact of going, well, I can go catch this guy, he can get a sniff and he normally can do it. But Dixon reacted brilliantly. He just went from point A to 1.2 and then...
I don't think there's anyone that can do anything but feel for Jake after that.
He's had a hard time since he went to Moto2, but this year especially he's made some
He had such a hard time, but then he never seemed to lose his composure. He sort of went a bit quiet on the job, but sort of went about it, carried on going about his business. I'd say he's very fortunate that he was given the opportunity to carry on, because we've seen so many people that haven't. Like even the last person that got half an opportunity was Taz McKenzie, and there's nothing to say that he wouldn't have then progressed on to great things. It's obvious that those bikes you have to, well, like any bike, but those bikes you seem to have to ride in a certain way, and it's not a quick fix. It's not like you jump on them. You see all the Moto3 guys, they jump on, and most of them are dead last for most. There's only Aaron Canet really that's been able to, in the last few years, jump on a Moto2 bike and actually be quick from the off. And
I think there's obviously a big question between who's going to get the Petronas ride between Dixon and McPhee, and I think Dixon's definitely putting a big stake.
His last several races, he's gone from, like you just said, from a difficult start to he's just gone there to there. It's almost like he's had like a gypsy's warning going, look, son.
The thing is with that,
you better pull your finger out.
With that class, even if you look, if you're 30th, you're like one of the best riders in the world.
100%.
And
I'm definitely not taking that away from him, but that, oh God, because he just pushed that little bit too much on the front.
The thing with McPhee, to me, brings up a slightly separate issue in terms of, like, obviously everyone's wanting John to move on, and he's been in Moto3 for a long, long, long time. I've not spoken to John for a while, so I don't know if he wants to move up or doesn't.
Oh, name dropping there?
No, but
I'm pally with John McPhee.
No, all it is like you sort of get forced to always have to progress, and like if your goal is to be Moto3 world champion, I don't see why you should have to be forced to move on to something.
Yeah,
that's
if all you want to do is be Moto3 world champion, that to you is the biggest and best thing, and that's absolutely fine. So I don't see why you have to be forced into the next one up.
That's definitely a thing that's changed in racing from like a while ago. Because for example, you used to have like 250 riders, and like your class would be the 250s, and it wasn't a stepping stone to the big class. Like you were a 250 specialist. Where I understand what you're saying with John, but at some point, for me. I mean, everyone's goal.
Like, for example, Cecchinello was just always a little bite rider. You used to get all those certain riders that their body shape or what they wanted to do, style, whatever, would suit a certain bike. I don't see why you would have to. I just think it's sad that it's almost like it's undervalued. So now those lower classes are seen as like stepping stones almost. So yeah, you win it, now you have to move on. Whereas that could be the be all and end all for you if you want to win Moto3 and that's what you want to. I think it's almost a shame.
But you look at like the Jonathan Ray situation. Yes, he had a very unfortunate but a rare opportunity to go into that MotoGP class, and yes, the story is that he was told not to crash and everything like that, and he could have made something off that. But that's the thing. We're a nation of this is my argument. We're a nation of underdogs, and quite frankly, we don't like seeing people do well.
It's true.
It is. And you think, all right, you think, oh, mint. When he hopped off the Honda and hopped on the Kawasaki, it was like, yeah, Jonathan Ray. And it's like, how many times has he won it now?
But what you said then about Johnny is also, it sort of works out for that one, because so many people are desperate for Johnny to move into MotoGP.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, he's clearly quite happy doing what he wants, doing what he does.
He's getting the cheddar in the pocket, and he's off winning races.
I actually respect and admire the fact he's going, nah.
I want to do it. Yeah,
I want to be World Superbike champion, and that's his out. He doesn't feel the need. Maybe he hasn't had the opportunity, but he also doesn't feel the need so much to really go chasing a MotoGP ride or championship challenge. And I kind of respect that.
Yeah, I suppose there's always that pressure to step up in any succession, like you. But does that happen even in motocross? So it's a bit. There, I'm going back to the motocross subject, but does motocross? Sorry, because I've got a fixation on motocross at the moment. I do apologise, Chrissy, but. Does power class matter really in that? Because to me, I had no idea. I didn't know.
You've got your MX1 and MX2, haven't you?
No, I mean power. So hopping off a 125 on a 450, does it?
Is that a massive difference?
No, but not just in the bike characteristics. But I saw lads in the A group who were just as fast on a 125 as they were on a 450. Now, if that was road racing or tarmac, that just does not happen. When you look at lap times, it's all about power. But in motocross, that's where the big difference is.
Different circuits as well, innit? So
you've got much more chance to ride a 250F and a 450 at similar speeds, haven't you? Whereas on a road bike, like you said, a 600 against a superbike, you wouldn't be able to race them together.
No, not a hope.
But wait, they've just changed the rule on running a 252 stroke in with the 250F now for your MX2, which is how from what you used to class it as, you had your 252 stroke was equivalent to your 450F, your 4-stroke.
Yeah.
And the 125 was the equivalent of the 250F. Well, obviously the 4-strokes are that advanced now. The 250 is as quick as the 252 stroke. So they've allowed the 252 stroke to run at MX2 together now.
Bloody hell.
So obviously 450s is like your elite, your MX1.
But is 2-stroke dying in motocross? Because it's died out. They
did a little bit, but they're coming back now.
They're coming back because in our sport, let's be fair, you don't see any. They're not in MotoGP. They're not a World Superbike. They've just dwindled off into the past, haven't they? Well,
no, they're coming. Motocross, they're coming back in a big way. big way.
That's
There's a lot of it's nostalgia as well,
Yeah.
like, because when I rid the 450 for a bit, and then I jumped back on the 125, and I had so much more fun riding the 125. From the moment firing it up, you just smile. And then when you pull off, you're just still smiling, and while you're riding round, you've got a big cheesy grin on your face, and you can just hear it singing all the time.
Speaking of motocross, after the season finishes, have you got any I presume you'll be training motocross, but bike racing wise, have you got anything planned for the rest of the year?
My dad sent me a screenshot yesterday actually for Mete, which is was a massive supermoto event. It's nowhere near as big as it ever was.
Is that the
But it's mid-November.
Is that the same time as the Western Beach Race? Now,
Is that the street race to do?
Yeah, street race in
But
Belgium.
Shane was telling us about that. I'm desperate. I'm desperate.
It's
to do
amazing,
that.
absolutely amazing.
How I want to do it. Tell everyone about this. You've jumped into it now.
Mete is basically the mecca of supermoto. So it's run on a road racing circuit in Belgium, and it's just mint. So it's basically it was the be all and end all. Supermoto was invented or thought up so that at the end of the season they would get motocross riders and road racers together in like an end of season bash and see who's the best. It's basically where it started from.
Really?
Yeah. And Mete is probably the biggest event in the supermoto calendar. Now, they then went and built a proper circuit at the circuit, at this road venue, and it sort of died a death a little bit because it was rubbish. So the whole point of Mete is it's on this really it's just on the streets. Yeah, it's on the streets. Like turn one, it's round a pub, and then you go round the roundabout and backwards up the one-way street, and then into the farmer's field and back again. Mete is just a mint event, and the names that have been involved in that event over the years is enormous, and it did sort of go away a little bit, but it's the last 2 or 3 years they've put it back onto the street circuit, so it's back to the proper circuit, and it's sort of gaining a bit of momentum again.
Is this an invite event or is this a?
No, so well.
I want to know how I can do it. That's what I've never.
Send your entry off.
Right, but you haven't got a spare supermoto bike. I've never done a supermoto event, so I best learn. Is it jumps? Is it jumps and everything?
Yeah, but they're all right.
Yeah, ask him about me.
There's no sand.
Again.
You're all right. There's no sand.
I'm 100% there. No, I definitely want to do it. So
You're not seen down at Teesside?
No.
Shane was down there the other week. He done a race meeting there. Little George, he done one on his 85 as well.
Oh my god, I can imagine them being absolutely
You
shit
come
hot, to be
down
fair.
and you know where pit lane is.
Mhm.
You come out and you go down towards where the motocross track is. You loop round. And as it loops round to come back, you go off-road there and then swing a left and then come back down onto the back right-hand corner to go down the back straight.
What I find amazing about supermoto is the fact of like the commitment into the next turn. Now, if I ran off track at a Cadwell Park or whatever, he went through the gravel trap, I'd be very conscious about there's dirt on my tyres and just getting that immediately off. You supermoto lads,
They do that.
You get used to
Do they
it.
not do that in Croft where they go off track and do some jumps and stuff and then come? Or is that rallying and then they come back on the tarmac?
Is that rallycross?
We've used the
Rallycross.
rallycross track at Croft
Right.
before. I've raced at
that's
Croft
cool.
Supermoto before.
Oh my god!
I'd love to do that.
But
So
they're a
that's
different
next up.
seating position as well, aren't them supermotos compared to your road bike?
Totally different.
So,
No,
as
motocross
you're
bike.
leaning the bike over, you've got more control over that slide on the bike,
Yeah.
I think, personally.
Oh my god!
No, well, we'll have to do that. That's next on the bucket list.
Mete,
Chase the
the
race.
race.
Mate,
Look it up.
no, seriously, like this is over 8 cans of Magners on an evening, and I'm doing this.
The last
event.
time
I'm
I done Mete was 2013, I think it was. But that was on the newly built circuit. It was rubbish.
How much?
But back on the proper circuit is proper, honestly. And the crowd to the start finish straight. There's a pavement, but it's exactly the right height for your handguards, so you can actually clip people's toes because their toes sort of fit under the railing, and you can like rub your handguard against people's toes. And then, like I said, the first corner you go round a pub, so everyone's just hanging off, and they allow you right next to the track. So you could basically, if you wanted to, you could sort of like
Chuck your pint.
That's mint.
Well, if any spectator put the hand out, they'd slap you around the head. That's how close it is. It's mega. Really proper event.
God, I can't wait for COVID.
We're coming over
piss
to
off.
watch you in November.
I'm
No,
coming.
do it.
No, I'm
Do
doing
it.
it. I'm doing it. There's
But
no.
it's always
Stop
has been a
shaking your head,
proper.
you.
It's been a proper inclusive event. So basically, just take 200-300 riders or whatever it is. There's no real like entry criteria. You just rock up. You qualify in whichever group you qualify in, and then that's it. You go racing.
Oh my god, I can't
It's
wait.
mint.
I can't wait for COVID to
Mint.
piss off. But there we go. So go on, Chrissy. What's I think we've just been rambling on about shite,
Yeah,
and that's the best thing about chasing the race, isn't it?
I was going to just wrap things up and just say, obviously going into the final round, whatever happens this weekend, I think you've had an unbelievable season. Obviously,
Definitely.
consistent, staying on the bike, got your first race win. You've shown everyone exactly what you're made of, and I really hope that the weekend goes as you hope. And hopefully next time when you come back for the fourth time, it would be nice if we could have 2 championship trophies sat here. But yeah, honestly, all the best, and thanks to our Ali G for coming on. Oh, by the way, do you know, have you ever seen the Ali G interview with the FBI? It's the funniest thing ever. He sits down and he goes, so
Back
like,
to talking shite.
yeah, he says, so like, what? He says, so like, how did you get your job with the FB? And the guy's like, so I got my job with the FBI. And he goes, and then he keeps doing it, and he keeps calling it the FB, and then the guy goes FBI. And he goes, It's so funny, but no.
I'll tell you what, that was the most professional, leaving of an interview ever. So obviously, good luck and everything like that. And I've seen the FBI shit. So there you
Just
go.
the cap that's remained.
There we go. So
Don't worry,
obviously,
don't worry.
well, before we go, would you like to say anything? I feel like I'm like a teacher at a schoolyard. Would you like to say anything to this man?
Well, I would know. Like it's exactly the same sentiment. I mean,
Exactly,
flipping, Chrissy's chasing a dream as well. So it's flipping. It's a big weekend coming up. So
Happy days,
just
man.
fingers crossed it
Big
goes
weekend
well
for Geordie
us.
Land.
But I would just like to say, whatever you two do is nothing compared to what this man
Wait.
did on the weekend. You know what I mean? So, doesn't matter how big your trophies are or how many girls hang off you, you've got nothing on the sugar tits here at all. So I thought we'd invite him here to diffuse the tension. There's no real pressure because you're not going to amount to that. But no, obviously, well, thank you very much, lads, for Perry coming on yet again. Obviously, we'll get you on for a 4th time. And
Big-
big
Do you,
luck.
want my bank details now or what?
Big
Oh,
thanks to our
it's like that.
patrons, and a big thanks to our sponsor, Colchester Kawasaki. And yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. Take care, lads.
Cheers. See you in a
Good
bit.
luck.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.